Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great day. Wanted to check out some stuff about the job market. I can relate a lot to it. I'm doing a lot of interviews, but yeah, not hearing a lot of feedback. So let's see. This guy's called Large Man Abroad. He's really cool, does cool content. Suggest you check him out. In the meantime, if you could hit a like and subscribe, and if you think of anything you want me to check out, let me know in the comments. All right, guys, let's get it. Let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. Today we're talking about the horrifying reality of the job market here in America right now. That's right, the job market, right? Everybody wants to talk about that. We've not talked about that enough, but we're going into the holiday season, and this is when people usually pick up a bunch of part time jobs. That way they can pay for a bunch of gifts for a bunch of ungrateful children that are still going to resent them anyway. But going into
Actually, it's not the case. This year, they said that they're going to let a lot of their staff, like Target, Walmart, stuff like that, go ahead and pick up the extra hours because they need them. So, I mean, that tells you more of a situation that those kind of places are facing, that not only do they not want to hire talent, but they are kind of actively asking the employees to take on overtime.
this holiday season, there's just no jobs. There's no jobs for anyone. There's no jobs for anyone who's just looking for normal employment. If you're actually looking for a part time gig, in fact, part time gigs are pretty much the only things that are out there right now because you can be underpaid. They don't have to give you a lot of hours, and they can treat you however they want to treat you because they know that you're going to quit in just a few weeks. But as far as the job market's concerned right now, unemployment, pretty low. That's the official numbers. That's what we hear,
Ah!
right? About 4.4%, something like that.
Come on, guys. We know it's a lot more than that because you know that numbers fall off right after like the 6 months. They stop counting you, or if you can't find a job, they say, "Oh, we're not counting you because you're not in that average pool of 24, 52 weeks." Counting you, or if you can't find a job, they say, "Oh, we're not counting you because you're not in that average pool of 24, 52 weeks."
95.6% of America is employed, right? The eagles soar, the flags, they wave. America's on the up and up. It's doing great. The economy's booming. People are flush with money. If you're poor, it's your own fault. It's
Hmm.
all ridiculous. Listen,
Right.
the employment numbers are a scam. Everyone knows that it's a scam. 4.4% is just an illusion, right? It's the number that they trot out on mainstream media to make everyone think that the
Perfect example. I will relate to that. Let's just say you live in California during the summertime, or Phoenix, for instance. Phoenix might be a better example, but Phoenix, California, it gets incredibly hot, and it's usually in the 100s, 110s, things like that. So, um, yeah, if they were to tell you the truth, like every day, like, oh yeah, it's actually be 120, 125, what would actually stop the people from waking up and saying, this is insane, this has to change, I'm not going to live like this? But if you're fed that, well, it's going to be 105, 110, some areas it might be 115, they give you just enough bits to kind of create your own narrative and think everything is fine. Believe me, when I hear it's going to be like 95 in the San Fernando Valley, that usually means it's going to be over 100 degrees because they're not accounting that the actual asphalt and ground and roofs will actually, take that heat and make the area a lot hotter. So,
economy is not collapsing. But the thing is, it is collapsing. If we take away the profit that was made by the AI companies this past year, the
then you
stock market
toast.
only went up 0.1%. Think
Toast.
about that. None, it's bad out there. But again, let's get back to the job market. Let's talk about the illusion because that's exactly what it is. It's an illusion, like free breakfast at a hotel. Unemployment numbers are great as long as you don't actually count the number of people who are unemployed in this country because that's the magic trick to this whole thing. Poof, they disappear just like
What
that.
I say?
People who are disgruntled because they put in 1,000
And
applications.
then and then they stop looking. I'm actually kind of at that point myself a little bit. I have a couple of, I'm waiting to hear back. I'm hoping, that things go well, but at the same time, I'm realistic. I say I don't have a job, and until I do have a job and I start, it's not good. So yeah, yeah, I'll just keep looking. But like I said, it's getting harder and harder to put in applications when you keep seeing the same positions over and over. And that means that the employer is not being able to find someone who's cheap enough to take the job. And hence, they can't fill the job. So they have to basically put it back online and make it seem like, oh, this is a brand new job because it's at the top of the timeline. So,
And have never gotten a call back and they just kind of turned away. They've been out of the job market for so long because they can't find a job. They're not going to count them anymore. If you've been on the job hunt for 6 or 7 months, the only thing that you actually have available to you in this country right now is entry level positions, but they're still asking for 12 years of work experience, a master's degree, and $120,000 worth of student loan debt. That's just to get your foot in
facts.
the door for an interview. People can't even get a job at McDonald's right now. You
You know why? Because you're not desperate enough, and they know that the second you get something better, you're just going to leave. So why would they even waste their precious time on you? That's the reality. A lot of jobs, they'll say, "Oh, he's too old. Why am I to hire someone who's only going to be at the company for a couple of years?" Or, "Oh, he's too young. He doesn't have anything," or but he has the degree. But yeah, everybody wants a unicorn with purple shoes. Just remember that.
know the economy is in a bad position when McDonald's is being super selective of the people that they're hiring. They're the criteria just to get a job at McDonald's is to have a degree. This sounds like the Philippines, right? I spent enough time in the Philippines to know that people who work at 7-Elevens usually have a degree in chemistry. That's insane. In countries like that where there's not enough jobs for people, the criteria just to get a poverty wage job requires a college degree. It doesn't make any sense. So when I hear the numbers rolled out on mainstream media and I
Facts.
hear people, the politicians getting up there and say, unemployment's looking pretty good right now. The numbers are looking great. Like, where in imagination land did you get this? Right? Are you getting these numbers
Their corporate overlords told them to do that because they can't rock the boat. They got to rob us blind before the ship sinks.
from Narnia? Because it's not from this planet, not the real numbers. On the surface, they're like, look, it's 3 to 4% unemployment.
That's the
But in
goal.
reality, everyone has a side hustle because they have to. They're silently weeping. And the other half have 3 jobs just so they can afford a mattress that's made of recycled cardboard. We got people with master's degrees delivering tacos at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's the only thing that offers them a flexible schedule that they can actually.
And that was what was so terrible. They told us, go to school, get your degree, get your experience. You won't have a problem. You'll have a house, you'll have a family. Everything will fall into place. I guess if you're a part of the owners club, that's true. But if you're among the worker bees like us out here in the streets, it's not going to be that way.
Have time to have a panic attack during the day. You've got 28-year-olds who've been working for 10 years reporting to an AI manager, and you got 60-year-olds who have no idea what's going on. They're told that they've got to reinvent themselves. Like they've got to learn Python, they got to learn how to use the algorithm. You got to look at this entire thing and just be like, what's going on? The jobs don't make sense. The positions don't make sense. The wages don't make sense. Most of these positions, they don't even sound real. They just sound like titles that some fucking tech billionaire dreamed up after a 16-hour ayahuasca bender in Joshua Tree. Like, you got to get personal with these stories because the numbers, they don't have a.
I can attest there is a lot of ayahuasca and things of that nature in that Coachella and Joshua Tree area.
Personal touch to them, right? Like recently, I've talked to a college graduate. They had a degree in communications.
Mm-hmm.
Bright kid, full of hope. The world is their oyster, and that's before they kind of got tasered by reality. 25% of unemployed people right now are recent college graduates. That should really tell you about the kind of hopeful landscape that our nation's youth is really treading on right now. 200 applications this person sent out and no replies. When they
Facts.
finally did land a job, it was just an unpaid internship. That's not even a job. That's getting paid in exposure. It's getting paid in experience. But experience doesn't pay the rent. Try to tell your landlord.
I actually like telling my mortgage company, hey guys, I didn't get a job. I don't have the full mortgage, but I have these really positive hugs and affirmations to tell you how great you are. Do you think they would accept that as my mortgage payments that's due in one day on the 5th?
That you don't have the money because you have an internship, but hopefully it'll lead to a job in the next 6 to 12 months. And they're just going to call the police on you. Then I talked to somebody else. They're like a mid-level professional, right? 20 years of experience, nice, amiable, solid work ethic, sensible shoes. Now they got laid off because their company got restructured. But all that
Facts.
really means is the company decided to save a little bit of money by getting rid of the workers.
And this always happens right before they're about to announce their quarterly earnings because it's all an illusion to pump up their stock price.
And putting in AI that's generally going to make decisions that are just a little bit worse than the live human that would have been taking that role before. But hey, at least the wage on the AI is a lot cheaper. So when he gets laid off, what does he do? He hits the job market, this dying, collapsing, festering abyss, this dystopian wasteland of a job market that it is.
Because the reality is that this is not a jobs, creation kind of opportunity place we're in right now. No, this is a service owner sector. So what does that mean? Doctors, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, people who have their own trade, they have their own company, they work with their hands, or they have to talk a lot. And a lot of the stuff is AI is not going to be able to get there. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, AI is going to take everyone's job. Just to give you perspective, the video phone call, right? Having like FaceTime, that came up in the 70s, right? That technology was already around, but only, of course, the high elite as well as Fortune 500 companies were able to utilize that. It wasn't until 2008 until the iPhone came out that the mass market had that. So I mean, it might happen, but it seems like a lot of clickbait that it's all going to happen in the next 2 years or so. Granted, it's not going to be good financial times the next 2 years or so, but hey, I'm just telling you the reality I see in the street. Okay, you take it for what you go out into the street, you tell me what you see.
Right now. And what's the only thing that's available to this person with 20 years of work experience? Junior positions. That's it. Entry level positions that require 5 years of experience.
I'm actually in the middle of that right now. It's not near where I want it to be on the pay, but I am a hustler. I will make it. There's commission involved, so there's that. But yeah, they're like, we want 5 to 7 years experience, and it's a junior role. And it was just like, I mean, typically 1 to 3 is entry, 3 to 5 is intermediate, 5 to 8 is senior. So he's spot on.
2 unpaid internships, with United Nations, and a willingness to work on the weekends in exchange for pizza. Because if you ask most people, they don't even ask most people what's the best way to get a job, and no one knows. No one knows what the hell's going on. Right? What are you going to use? LinkedIn? A ZipRecruiter? Most people feel like they're just sending their resumes into the void because that's exactly what they're doing. And you don't get a response. You don't even get a rejection. If you do get a rejection, for some reason, it's going to be 2 or 3 months later when HR for the company decides to push out, hey, we decide to go in a different direction email. But all that means is they actually, hired somebody to the position internally, or because they had a drinking buddy who got laid off and gave them the job even though they didn't even need to apply. You ever see what a grown adult looks like when they're checking their LinkedIn at midnight?
It's
dark.
not good.
It's not good. It's like watching a raccoon try to search through a dumpster, just trying to find their self-worth. But we really got to
trying to see the trees from the forest. Absolutely, you're inundated with so much crap. You can't even tell what you should jump on first.
to travel in this one because the job market collapse isn't really distributed evenly and really does depend on what region you're in. Each region is a little bit different, but there isn't any golden area, right? There's no spot that you can go to unless you have a high paying remote job and you can move out to the rural bump nowhere. There's really no escape. I've been to some places in this country where it is like a Disneyland, right? And people are so happy. Living is nice. There's no worries. Everyone's smiling. People out jogging at 9 a.m. because they don't have a job to go to because they're probably just a stay-at-home mom. And the only reason those places are like that because those people are genuinely rich, and rich people all live in the same area. But everywhere else,
It's so true. I mean, in many respects, you are who you hang around with. Like he says, rich people live next to rich people. Poor people tend to live next to poor people. Middle income, whatever's left of that is, surviving by intergenerational living situations. I have my mom that I take care of and lives with me, and that affords me a little bit of rope to not run into the first burning building when it comes to finding a job, because the system forces us to take something because of the system we live in, that you have to have money to survive, to do anything, to live, right? It's like just walking out the door, $5 right there. Think about it.
it's just kind of a desolate wasteland. Let's talk about the Midwest. You walk through every small town, and the buildings look like they haven't been occupied since the Carter administration. And the only functioning businesses there at this point still is just a Dairy Queen and a Dollar General. And even they're struggling to get by because they rely on their customers using food stamps. And who knows if those are going to hold up in the future. Those businesses are kind of clinging to life like two survivors off the Titanic found some driftwood. That's pretty much it. The factories are gone, the warehouses are empty. Listen, I've actually ran warehouses in rural America before, and even during the COVID days, they were empty. Nowadays, there's nothing going out because nobody can afford to buy anything.
They're not paying enough, and then they'll say, "Oh, well, the person I need is not a skilled laborer, so I'm not even going to hire him."
So the warehouses are empty. The only jobs that you can actually get are either low wage or pay in tips and emotional trauma. And you got a 58-year-old man who, spent the past 30 years working in a factory, but now he's delivering groceries out of his pickup trucks because his job got taken by a robot. The
Mm-hmm.
thing is, the robot doesn't even do the job that well. It just
Doesn't.
works for cheap.
Here's a fun fact. There was a story that Google sent me, and it was just to piggyback on it. It says Google's agentic AI wipes users' entire hard drive without permission in catastrophic failure. Cache wipe turns into mass deletion event as agent apologizes. I'm absolutely devastated to hear this. I cannot express how sorry I am. You don't believe it? It's right here. I'll put the link and something in the screen as well. But yeah, like he said, shit's not even ready to work yet, and they're churning everybody else out like like they don't have a job anymore.
Then you got the tech hubs in the big cities, the San Franciscos, the Austins, the New York cities. There, everyone has a job, but their jobs aren't even real. All their job titles sound fake because they are. They're innovation consultants, growth hackers, vision architects. And if you ask the people what the jobs even mean, they can't even tell you. That's because there is no
Facts.
meaning to those jobs. It's because the companies that hire people like that only exist because venture capital has enough money to throw at these places and prop them up so they can inflate the value of the companies and either sell it off or rug pull it for a profit. You got people who are working at startups that aren't profitable yet. But the thing is, the same startup hasn't been profitable for the past 12 years. This is just a common thing. And even if you have a good wage in a place like that, it doesn't even mean anything. Not when a studio apartment in some of these cities is $4,000 a month, and that's just for the living space that is essentially the size of a toddler's coffin. But at least if you live in one of these places, there's a good chance that recreational smoking is allowed. So at least you can numb yourself to the reality that you have a fake job. You're not getting paid enough. You pay too much for your rent and apartment. And tomorrow you can lose your job to an AI bot named Chad. And you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be running DoorDash just like the guy out in the Midwest, except you're going to have to trade that $4,000 rent apartment for a $3,500 a month co op with 8 different people in essentially the same living space. because it's not rent controlled. And lastly, of course, we got to talk about the South, baby. South ain't got nothing going on.
When
I
does
mean,
it?
they got jobs. Yes, they have jobs
Crawfish doing piecemeal work where you're getting paid by the pound? No, sorry.
everywhere. If you like working for Amazon and kind of dystopian, consumeristic cathedral warehouses that those are, but more than that, they got gig jobs, service jobs, compliance work, logistics, distribution. Really, the South has the backbone of jobs when it comes to our country.
Actually, all the manufacturer and jobs move down to the South because that is where they're able to get the cheapest labor because of the cost of living. And then people even know and expect to drive up to 1 hour one way for that job. How do I know? I've recruited for these positions in Georgia specifically. I'll just say that.
But the wages are the issue. Paychecks for jobs in the South should come with a sympathy card because you kind of need it. Because each time you get one of those paychecks and actually have a look at it, after all the deductions, all the taxes, local, state, federal, your social security, all that shit. After they take all that out of it, you're left with nothing. You can go to the Piggly Wiggly. You can go to Winn-Dixie, maybe get some pulled pork and cry over that while watching NASCAR. That's all you got in the South. Down there, you're still working 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and you still got to choose between electricity and food because guess what? They just put in a new AI warehouse, and now you have what's essentially an additional $200 monthly fee just so you can have access to AI slop when you're scrolling through TikTok. Lovely. But this is just how civilization collapses. And we can all sense it. We can all feel it. And we're all just kind of like,
And what's funny? It's happening in real time, and it's all at this point we're just saying it's either happening or it's not happening, or oh, this is anecdotal evidence because only you're experiencing this. But you know what? When 58% of people are saying the economy is jacked up, and they're on both sides of the political spectrum, there's some truth to it. And you can either just hear people's truths and listen to them, or you can believe what you want to believe on the TV, whatever they want to sell you.
poking and be like, just fall apart already so we can try to build something new. At least so we don't have to pay taxes anymore. Because the problem isn't you, right? The problem is the system. The problem is a system where productivity goes up, but the wages don't. Pay for the CEO goes up, but wages don't. Prices go up, but wages don't. And all the meanwhile, normal people, regular workers, the working class, the working poor, you're just told that you got to work harder. But you're working harder for what reason?
Pull
Because if you
yourself
work
up.
overtime, all the money, if you have a job that will give you overtime, pretty much all the extra money that you would have made on that goes away to taxes. So what's the point? But that's what society expects from us, right? Grind. You got to rise and grind. You got to build your personal brand and launch a side hustle, become an entrepreneur. And honestly, that's the best way to get out of this entire situation because the age of working for somebody else is over.
Exactly.
So you have to try the lottery of small business, try the lottery of actually becoming an entrepreneur. But that's what it is at this point. It's a lottery because small businesses, because small business in America is collapsing. Make a video on that. The thing is, people don't need a side hustle anymore. They just need one decent job. This is what people want.
The fact that multiple people are working 40 plus hours a week and are not able to pay their bills says it all. Whether you want to believe it or not, anybody who works should be able to pay their bills after 40 hours. We're asking people to work 50, 60, 70 hours to be able to meet their needs. Obviously, everyone's situation is different. Everyone's cost of living is different. So it's not a catch all, but a lot of anecdotal evidence is saying this, and when there's smoke, there's fire. That's something.
Most people just want one job that they can work and it's going to pay for the rent. It's going to pay their mortgage. It's going to pay for their food, their utilities, and maybe once a year they can go to Disney World. That's all people really want. And healthcare. And you're like, well, that shouldn't be much to ask for. And the thing is, you're right. That's not much to ask for. That should be a bare minimum in the greatest country on earth, the wealthiest country.
It reminds me of this philosophy I heard, which says it kind of all because you can look at the rest of the world and this lesson applies. Hey guys, Mike from the future here in the editing bay. Not sure what the hell I was talking about there, but make sure to hit a like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if this was a W or an L. Should I keep doing stuff like this? Should I do other stuff? Give me a hint, give me a topic, let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.